Get it poppin', get the drink. Hold up, bitches wildin' when the gang showed up. Swear they gotta know the name, they gotta show love. I've been flexing on these lanes, I got it sold up. Get it poppin', get the drink. Hold up, bitches wildin' when the gang showed up. Swear they gotta know the name, they gotta show love. I've been flexing on these lanes, I got it sold up. Yo, ain't no debate, I've been putting in work.
Here's Smaug, pissed off at the dwarves, taking everything out on the townspeople of Lake Town for some reason.
Because he thinks that the dwarves care about the people of Lake Town. This is not the movie making a mistake, it's a character within the movie making a mistake. Moreover, Smaug doesn't want to fight the dwarves anymore because he was already defeated by them once.
Nearly the entire town is on fire, but thankfully the armory was spared.
Coincidences like this happen all the time in real life though, so I don't understand why this is a sin.
After clearly devastating the town, Smaug continues his assault on the people who did him no wrong.
Okay, but you already sinned the fact that Smaug is taking his anger out on the wrong people, so this is an example of Jeremy double dipping.
Also, you teased this whole big thing with Smaug at the end of the last movie, only to have him take a couple fire-breathing passes at Lake Town and then die like a chump-ass?
Okay, I totally agree that what the movies did with the story and how it was structured was absolute shit. But the point of ending the Smaug plotline so early is to make room for the Battle of the Five Armies, which is the title sequence of this movie.
How long has Gandalf been in this cage? What if he has to pee? Has he had any food at all?
Simply asking questions does not count as a sin. There are probable answers to these questions, and while we don't know how long Gandalf has been in the cage, we can safely assume that he has been fed small portions, and as for peeing, he'd have to pee his pants.
I sure am glad they spent all this time on this love story. It turned this B-list dwarf into, only the third dwarf I can remember in this movie.
I have no problem with sinning this love story because it wasn't in the book, but you literally just said that the plotline served its purpose, and yet you still sinned it, which is dumb.
Where's the master?
Halfway down the Anduin.
How is it that random townsfolk number 1 saw Bard slay the dragon, but absolutely no one was around to see the dragon fall on the master of Lake Town? You mean to tell me that there are several people in the background here that didn't notice an up-teen-ton dragon falling on the master?
But you just said that the dragon was up-teen tons, so those people who were close to the master probably either died or were injured from the fall.
This dwarf notices something he can't possibly notice, hundreds of feet below, and at an angle that is not conducive to noticing things.
The fuck does this bullshit even mean? An angle that's not conducive to noticing things? What? He looked down and saw Thorin. That's it. What's so unrealistic about it?
What gold is in that mountain is cursed. We will take only what was promised to us.
Because that gold is not cursed.
Holy shit, what don't you understand about the concept of greed? The curse only affects what isn't rightfully yours. The curse is greed. If you only take what was promised to you, you're not giving in to your greed.
Helen Winiath or Adarlin.
Kani Hidan Winnie Nale.
Tolo Tauriel. Hirnin. Lenan Tauriel.
I decided to keep that from both of you until it was dramatic enough to reveal.
But why would he immediately say that Tauriel has been banished? The only reason he's there is to summon Legolas back to his father, and when Legolas told her to join him, that's when he revealed this. It makes perfect sense.
When you see Galadriel do this, you realize what a selfish elf she's been throughout both trilogies. She had all this power to help people out, and here's the only time she uses her power ever.
First of all, that's a lie. She uses her power in the Fellowship of the Ring to help Frodo. Also, we're shown in this very movie that using her power drains her energy and is actually dangerous to her, so if she used it too willy-nilly, she could actually possibly die.
Sauron introduces himself via the Lord of the Rings masturbation poem.
Sinning this poem is worth at least 100 sins.
Elrond and Saruman apparently have the ability to strike ghosts with their physical weapons. And since these ghosts are the ring wraiths in Lord of the Rings, I don't quite understand where they go after they get hit. Do they become extra ghosts or something?
I agree that this fight is kinda confusing, but you also sin the fact that their physical weapons are affecting ghosts, and the answer is magic. It's really not that hard to get.
Literal Eye of Sauron shows up here, making much of the previous trilogy's first movie seem kinda stupid, but whatever.
How the fuck does this make the first movie stupid? Seriously, how does this make any sense?
Galadriel shows two superpowered wizards what real power looks like, completely undermining their power in the LOTR trilogy and making me wonder why she did nothing to help in that entire 3-movie war against Sauron.
Jeremy double dips Ex Machina cliché. Also, what the fuck do you mean she undermines their power? Like, yeah, she's more powerful than them, but I don't see why that's a sin.
Without the Ring of Power, Sauron can never again.
So, you knew about the Ring of Power and knew his name was Sauron here, but Gandalf still needs to stop years later upon reaching for the ring to go and research what the the ring is and shit?
Okay, this is the point of the video where you start to realize that Jeremy doesn't know shit about the LOTR universe. 9 rings were given to men, 7 to dwarves, and 3 to elves, plus Sauron's ring. That's a lot of fucking rings, and Sauron's ring has been lost for almost 3,000 years at this point, so Gandalf has absolutely no reason to suspect that Bilbo's ring is actually Sauron's.
Her strength is failing. Take her to Lothlorien.
Where she'll stay for 60 years, earning a reputation as an elf witch of terrible power, who decides not to ask any questions about Sauron ever again.
So the basis of this sin is that she never pursues Sauron after this, but that's stupid, because at the end of this very scene, Saruman says that he will deal with Sauron, and Galadriel obviously trusts Saruman, so she had no reason to actively go after Sauron herself.
How did 10 years pass, but Weta got worse at visual effects?
There are so many better places where you could have put this in, but you chose this of all places? Really?
Came to reclaim something of mine.
There are gems in the mountain that I too desire.
What? How did elf gems get into the Lonely Mountain?
This question required 5 seconds of research. Boom, that's the answer.
Begone! Ere our arrows fly!
Okay, maybe this is argumentative, but isn't this a clear case where the non-Thorin dwarves could talk some sense into this guy? And remove him from power if he continues to have a treasure boner that clouds his thoughts?
First, they do try to talk sense into him, but he refuses to listen. And the reason they don't remove him from power is because not only would that be treason, but Thorin is also their friend. They love him and don't want to turn against him, especially if it would lead to violence. And second, Jeremy says boner.
The Arkenstone. One of them has taken it.
Why is Thorin so certain one of his fellow dwarves have taken the Arkenstone, and his paranoia hasn't focused on Bilbo, the guy who was in the treasure room longer than anyone? Yeah, he's underestimating it.
Hold up, let's stop right there. You just undercut your argument all by yourself. You didn't even need me to do it for you.
This is the gateway to reclaiming the lands of Angmar in the north.
Sounds important. Too bad I don't know what it means. Earlier, Legolas was talking about how important this Gundabad place was when it came to Angmar. Now the Lonely Mountain is the most important place again.
Or, and hear me out, because I'm going to be explaining rocket science, maybe both places are important.
So he's referring to the wereworms, which, honestly, I'd rather see how they negotiated to ally with these things rather than them being a surprise later.
Why are you assuming that they made an alliance with the worms, instead of, just controlling them?
This is a fight they cannot win.
That won't stop them.
Bilbo, you didn't hear that.
Why the fuck not?
Basically, the Battle of the Five Armies is a recreation on a much larger scale of the Anchorman fight in Anchorman.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the movie cliche.
So the elves decide at the last minute to not be total dicks and save the day. I honestly didn't expect that, if only because it's a well Peter Jackson has gone back to so many times he has his mail forwarded there.
So you're sinning the fact that the movie did something unexpected? What the fuck?
When we were little, my brother and I used to set up army men on opposite ends of the room.
Skip.
I saw them! They were down in the old market!
Thanks, random woman. Your amazing knowledge is only surpassed by your amazing hearing in the middle of all this commotion.
At this point, I'm convinced that Jeremy is half deaf, because he always seems to think that people shouldn't be able to hear shit that's said in totally plausible hearing distance.
Again, the elf flies in at the last second to not be a total asshole.
What do you mean the elf flies in to not be a total asshole? The first time you mentioned the elves not being assholes, it made sense, because they were helping the dwarves. But this scene is not showing Thranduil saving anyone. He's just fighting by himself.
Azog has been doing nothing but narrate every time we see his dumbass.
Jeremy doesn't realize that he is Azog.
Oh no, 13 more dwarves.
The point is that they're rallying to their king. He's an inspiration for the army.
Suddenly, everyone has rams. Their fellow dwarves didn't bring them, and neither did the elves, so who had them?
There are some deleted scenes with the rams in them, because the dwarves use them to pull their war machines, so that's where they came from.
Why would you dismount the super-fast giant goat of destruction?
Because they're in close quarters now, and there's not enough room to effectively ride the rams.
Ravenhill.
Thorin is up there. And Philly and Killy, they're all up there.
Oh no, Thorn and the others might only just now be in danger.
But the movie explains that Ravenhill is about to be completely overrun by an army of orcs, so the dwarves who are currently there are about to be surrounded.
Meanwhile, in this cutaway, you'll forget Thorin is horribly outnumbered and should probably be dead around Orc 13 or 14 or so.
I agree with this sin, but you've already sinned it, so double dipping yet again. This fake-ass laugh. Holy shit, okay, that was actually really fucking funny. Take a sin off.
What we saw was so fake that it can't even register as cool or an adrenaline rush. I don't think I could be more offended even if Peter Jackson rode into the theater on a horse and started beating us with that carrot he always eats in these movies.
Okay, I loved the joke you made just a second ago, and I obviously agree with your point, but you've already sinned this. Stop double dipping.
Here come the Eagles, still clearly worried about those men and their great bows of yew, which would have shot them down if they brought Gandalf and crew closer to the Lonely Mountain. Can't we just admit they only show up when the story calls for it?
No, the Eagles are sentient, which means that when they don't want to do something, they won't.
Beorn jumps off the eagle and turns himself into a bear, which allows him to survive this jump.
And your point is? Seriously, this is a supernatural bear in a fantasy movie, and you're sinning the fact that it survives a high fall? Come on, man.
I bet you thought after we gave the last thing 2 sins because of this, that we wouldn't sin this, but you're wrong.
Admitting to your double dipping does not excuse it.
Go north. Find the Dunedain. There's a young ranger amongst them. You should meet him.
No. Look, I'm already giving lots of leeway here that Aragorn is at least 60 in The Lord of the Rings kicking all that ass. But this bullshit right here is an absolutely ludicrous way to connect the 2 movie trilogies.
No, Aragorn is not 60. He's 80. The elves gifted him a long life, which is how he can still kick all that ass at such an old age.
Why bother to tell your elf son to go find a human boy? Out of all the places and people to suggest he should spend time, you don't even have to read the books to find this offensive in every way. Besides, in Fellowship, it's not until they get to the Council of Elrond that they even meet. Not one scene in that movie suggests they had a long history together.
Hold up. Slow down with all the bullshit. First, the reason he tells Legolas to find Aragorn is because he both respects Aragorn and knows that he is the heir to the throne of Gondor, which is pretty damn important. And second, the fuck do you mean the first movie never suggested Aragorn and Legolas had a history together? That's a straight up lie. Remember this scene?
And what would a ranger know of this matter?
This is no mere ranger. He is Aragorn, son of Arathorn. You owe him your allegiance.
This is Isildur's heir.
And heir to the throne of Gondor.
Have a dad, Legolas.
Look, I haven't been able to find anything confirming that this is Bryan Cranston, but wouldn't it be just like a f***ing movie to put him here for 5 seconds and then pretend he doesn't exist?
A whole bunch of bullshit.
He does exactly what I do, but better.